Etepu, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Harun Hefer. This is Qesankh Keperu with another exciting video for you. In this video, we're going to go deep into the Mandela Effect. But before I do that, I want you to hit the like button on this channel. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications on when I go live and when I upload recorded videos. If you want to learn more about my spiritual teachings, you can scroll down below and click on any one of the ebook links. You can download those ebooks, start reading today. They are free. But if you want to follow that rabbit down the rabbit hole, you can simply become a Patreon supporter for as little as $1, $5, or $20 per month. It's up to you. You can cancel at any time, and you'll get access to exclusive videos on the spiritual, on the esoteric. Videos like how to do meditation, how to do proper breathing exercise, how to contact the ancestors, how to invoke a spirit for your protection, how to do a money ritual. And last, if you are a Osir level supporter, all your oracle readings are free. So become a Patreon supporter today. Last but not least, share this video with family and friends so we can get the revolution started. Harun Nefer. It's funny that I kind of mentioned the rabbit going down the rabbit hole because my pharmacist, she has a tattoo of a rabbit and she has 2 rabbits. So every time I come to her, I talk about going deeper into the rabbit hole. And it's just very, very funny. And we trade stories. She talks about what her rabbits are up to, and I talk about what my ferrets are up to. And it's very interesting. You know, in a way, you can look at that as a synchronicity effect. But I want to talk about something I already covered in the previous video, but take it to the next level because it's happening more and more and more. People are attributing it to the Hadron Collider, and I don't actually believe that that's what's causing it. But what's happening is what we call the Mandela Effect. Now, those of you who are not familiar with the Mandela Effect, let me explain it, and I will bring up a really good definition of it and expand more on that. All right. So Nelson Mandela's death, that started the Mandela Effect, I believe. Let's start with the reason we're all here. Nelson Mandela, who this theory is named after, died in 2013. However, countless people distinctly remember him dying in prison in the 1980s. But his death isn't the only example of the Mandela Effect. We have been wrong about so many dates, details, and more. Keep going for more commonly remembered moments in history. So in short, Nelson, there's 2 segments of the population on the planet. One who remembered Mandela dying in jail. Another who remembered Mandela being freed and becoming president of South Africa. And this is not like a few people. This is widespread across the planet. So what's happening here? Now, it doesn't just stop there. People are beginning to notice that things have changed in their world. There is the beloved Berenstein Bears. Some people remember them being called the Berenstein Bears. Others remember them being called the Berenstein Bears. As one example. Another remember on the Lucy show, Ricky going, whenever Lucy would get into one of her antics, Ricky would say, "Lucy, you got some slaining to do." Well, we're now told that that never happened. And I distinctly remember Ricky saying that, but yet trying to search for footage of that can be problematic. I also remember, what is his name? He's a famous comedian who did a genie movie. And we're going to look it up. But he says now he never did the movie, but many people distinctly remember the movie. Oh, now I remember the comedian's name is Sinbad. So many are saying, yes, I remember Sinbad's Genie movie. Another group are saying, no, he never made a Genie movie. And he says he never made a Genie movie. This has caused a lot of issues. In the movie Moonraker, many people remember towards the end of the girl looking at Jaws, and I believe it was her having metal teeth to match his. But now that's not happened. There are no metal teeth. So people are really perplexed as to why these things are occurring. Why is history being changed to the point of if you remember something a certain way, you can no longer find evidence of that. Psychologists are telling us that's a commonly known effect of the brain, which I think is ludicrous. You don't have an entire population on the planet remembering something opposed to another population. It doesn't work that way. But many have ventured forth to give explanations as to this. But I want to go back and take a look at some more of these effects so you can get a bigger picture of what I'm talking about here. So let's go, and this site has actually 50 examples of the Mandela effect. Now, some remember this peanut butter being called Jiffy. Others remember it being called Jif. Now, here's one that's really, really funny. I remember it being called Looney Tunes with the T-O-O-N-S, but it's really Looney Tunes with the T-U-N-E-S. And when I saw the T-U-N-E-S, I was baffled at this. But they're telling us the Looney Tunes T-O-O-N-S never existed. Warner Brothers says no, it never was Looney Tunes. It was Looney Tunes. Here's another example I was talking about. Many people remember it being called the Berenstein Bears, and others remember it being called the Berenstein Bears. They're saying the Berenstein Bears never existed. Here we have Curious George in one of his photos with a tail and without a tail. I remember him with a tail, and now they're telling us no, that picture never had a tail. Sex in the City and Sex and the City. I remember Sex in the City. Others remember Sex and the City. It says, while these four women were having sex in the city, the show was actually titled Sex and the City. So we're seeing discrepancies here. And we can go on much more. Oscar Mayer with the M instead of the E. Let me see. Fruit Loops. You know, Kellogg has been spelling fruit like that for years, and we only noticed it now. What? All right. So yes, there are lots and lots of examples. I remember. Now, here's the Kit Kat hyphen issue. If you just had an existential crisis about the fact that there's no hyphen between Kit and Kat, how know that you're not alone? I remember the hyphen, but they're saying there is no hyphen. So try and find a candy bar that has the hyphen. And we have Fruit of the Loom and Fruit of the Loom. It used to have a cornucopia behind the fruit, right? And we can go on. Now, here is one that really, really shocked me. C3po has a silver leg. I do not ever remember him having a silver leg. And the biggest Star Wars fans and Halloween costume sites get it wrong. The robot isn't all gold. He has one silver piece on his right leg. But I remember him always being silver, and that right piece not being, I remember him, let me correct myself. being all gold and not having a silver right leg. So there's, we can go on and on, but you can check this site out on your own. It's called 50 Mandela Effect Examples that will make you question everything. Now, it even goes deep as to people even remembering a continent that no longer exists. And some remember a country that no longer exists. So what is going on here? What is happening? Many people in the conspiracy theory arena say that the Hadron Collider, which they turned on, has pushed us into a parallel reality where things have changed. So I want to back up and give you an explanation as to why this Mandela effect is happening that is apart from the modern psychological perspective, which I believe is wrong. It's just saying there's this phenomenon where the brain can misremember things. That's the brain can and does misremember things. That's why eyewitness testimony is not really good in court. But to the degree that entire populations, millions and millions of people are remembering something that no longer exists, that's strange. That is no simple brain effect. So I'm going to give you like an explanation as to this so you understand what is going on. When we look at the modern tarot, the Rider-Waite tarot deck or whatever tarot deck you have, there's so many out there. The whole idea of the tarot is you start out as the Fool. And as the Fool, you go through the Fool's journey. And you're learning about yourself and the world. Some call this blue pill, red pill, black pill theory, named after the Matrix. You inevitably get to the magician, where you become the magician. You can manipulate space and time. I have talked about you being a reality generator, that you have the power to manipulate space and time. Now remember, we live in the fourth dimensional plane, and space time are inseparable. There's 3 dimensions of space, 1 of time. And reality does not exist apart from the observer. We know that. So for there to be a reality that you can see and interact with, there has to be the observer. The only reason you're here because there's an observer, which is God. The only reason your bedroom, your boss, your job is there is because of you, because you are the observer. You have created those things to interact with. It all comes from consciousness. Your consciousness is very powerful. But I want you to go deeper on this. I want you to understand that whatever is your deepest desire, your strongest emotion, will in some way, shape, or form manifest in this 4th dimensional plane, the space-time continuum. Because there are other levels of existence that you have explored, but you don't remember. And you are exploring because the only thing that exists is the now moment. There is no past, there is no future, there is the now moment. And this is how we're manipulated by the ruling oligarchy. And we know that the ruling oligarchy is not the rulers of the planet. They are your mega billionaires and trillionaires. There is a shadow presence behind a curtain that hides and that has very, very powerful knowledge of you and of the universe. So the fact that you can manipulate space-time on an individual basis tells me that the ruling elite, the oligarchy, and that which is behind the curtain knows this knowledge too. Now, you can't radically change things because your power as an individual is not as powerful as the collective. See, the collective of humanity forms a reality, which we call as the mass consensus agreement. And that reality is that we exist with gravity, we exist on a planet, we exist in space-time. But you have what we call as a reality tunnel or hypnotic tunnel, where you have say in the creation of things that happen to you, such as people coming in and out of your life, such as the amount of money you have, the amount of life, the quality of life you have. You have a say in that based on your belief system. But there are certain things you cannot change, no matter how hard you try, because you are bound to what we call as your soul contract or your destiny. You can't change that. That has to stay. That's why you're here. So what if this higher being can scan the space-time continuum and knows a space-time continuum that is more conducive to its liking, more conducive to subjugating the masses of people on the planet? This being or this individual could manipulate the masses of people into shifting to a parallel reality, one that's in alignment to what this being wants. And we who notice this would not understand what is transpiring. Now, this being realizes that if it was to do a large quantum leap, which it can, to a different space-time reality, maybe one where there was a new world order and there we were enslaved, that we would remember on a global scale the past reality and awaken to the matrix. So in order to avoid that awakening on a mass level, this being entity doesn't do a large quantum leap, but it takes a small leap and small step in the direction it wants to take us. And these incremental steps happen over the course of years, so that we are moving to a new space-time reality, one that this being wants us to be in, where we are enslaved and where it is a dystopian future. Now remember, let me say it again. It can, if it wants, send us to a quantum leap, to a radically different reality. But if it did that, we would notice the abrupt and apparent changes in our reality, in our world. And we would connect the dots as to what's going on. So to prevent that and to hide from us the magical power that we do possess, it pushes us to different space-time realities incrementally, so that we get these small doses of the Mandela effect, but not enough to wake the planet as to what's really going on, just enough to spark our curiosity and to leave it be. So I want you to consider that. Let us say you would scan and have an overview of the entire space-time reality matrix. You can pick out from that one that you like and that you want to exist in, such as maybe you being a rich billionaire. And you can say, I want to shift to that reality. You essentially could, if you stay focused on it and it becomes your dominant belief system. And it would take time, though, to shift. And if you wanted to do a large quantum leap to get there immediately, you would need more power, which would have to come from the collective. So you would need to induce the collective to align with your belief system to get you to that reality where you're a billionaire. And you would induce them through seductive means, subliminal means, so they would not know what you're doing, but still would harbor a belief system, one that pushes you to that space-time continuum as a billionaire. Listen to what I'm saying, because this is what's happening. I'm taking you deep, deep down the rabbit hole. If you want to understand the Mandela effect, you first have to understand your power in relation to this now moment. You see, if those subliminal ideas and concepts are implanted in you now, and you shift to that different parallel reality, your history changes and your future changes. And you will no longer remember some of that past history. And if we want to awaken the planet, we have to indoctrinate them into a totally new belief system. If we want to end slavery and oppression, we have to indoctrinate those who are oppressed into a new belief system. Not liberate them physically, because if you liberate them physically, their mindset will only take them back to enslavement. You can't walk up to an individual who has been chained and a slave since birth and remove the chains and set them free and think that they can survive. The same with domesticated animals that have been brought up in a household all their lives. You cannot then release it to the wild and think it can survive. It cannot. So when our belief system changes, our reality will change. And all will be in alignment with our wishes. But until that happens, know that we are going to see more instances of this Mandela effect. Because the ruling elite and this shadow being are pushing us to a new reality, and not a very good one. It knows exactly what it's doing. It is a dark force on the planet. It is an evil precognitive presence that can read your mind, that could play with the dimensions. And the only thing that we're exposed to and accept as a possibility is the ruling elite, the oligarchy, the 1%. Because we have been trained to believe in only the concrete, only the physical. That's how it keeps its presence hidden, because the entire planet is conditioned not to believe in higher dimensions, higher spiritual realms, higher beings, lower beings. We have been indoctrinated into that belief system that shies away from that knowledge, which is higher level stuff. And those that practice this higher level stuff know that they are targets, and they have to do so in secrecy. And they try to counteract this shadow presence. But it's very difficult because you're fighting your own brothers and sisters, the people around you. You're fighting them because they're so enslaved by the system. They don't want the change removed. They will fight to the death to keep the chains on them. And they will destroy themselves and your life in the process, if necessary. That's how conditioned they are. You see, I can go and I could talk to a stranger on the street and tell that stranger a story about how an angel came to me in a vision and said I would come into money, and the next day I found $100. And the person on the street most likely have been indoctrinated into a Christian or Jewish or Catholic background will accept that and will not think I'm crazy and will not call the guys with the straitjacket. But the minute I go to this person and say an interdimensional being came to me and said I would come into money, he's ready to call me a nutcase, when there's really no difference in those two stories, but playing around with label and definitions. But this is what the ruling elite has done to us. Yes, the earth is a living, breathing creature. There's no doubt about that. So, and the earth, if humanity does not act right, the earth will remove us from the planet by way of storm, disease, what have you, and bring forth a new life that will work in conjunction with it to sustain the planet. In other words, everything has a form and a function, and that form and function serve to sustain the whole. We are in the ecosystem of Gaia, of terra firma, and our job is to interact and properly interact so that the earth is conducive to all forms of life. But if we are engaged in things that remove life, especially the forests, which are like the lungs of the planet, then the planet will deduce that we are a threat to it, and it will remove us. So keep that in mind. So I want you to understand this whole concept of the Mandela effect is you. It's coming from you in a way. And that when you awaken to your power, you will realize what you can truly do, which is some very, very magical stuff. So explore that Mandela effect. And let me put the link in the chat box because it is fascinating. It is so fascinating. Well, that's a long link. But let's see what it does. All right. Check that out. Have any questions? Feel free to ask them below. And this is Qesankh Ma Keparu. Sorry, my mother, my father, are Ma'at and Tehuti. Ma'at is the beautiful goddess Heteru. Until my next broadcast, Amen Ra.